This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. Just finished up a few chores this morning. We just got back from our vacation trip from Utah. There's a Mount Zion National Park. I highly recommend that you guys, if you can, make your way out to Mount Zion National Park. If you like our national park systems overall in the United States, then I think you're going to be really intrigued by what Mount Zion has to offer. For the most part, it reminds me of almost like a type of Grand Canyon, a mini Grand Canyon of sorts. The hiking trails, I think, are incredible. Excuse the noise for a second. One more. Again, some of the hiking trails there are going to be on par with some of the best on the planet, probably. Mainly because you're rappelling down cliffs. I don't know if that could be, who knows how high these cliffs are, but you can see some of the people going down the sides of these cliffs, and not only that, but the coloration. I think the coloration of the cliffs themselves is just really exquisite. You're going to see all sorts of contrast as far as colors and things are concerned. You got a lot of iron in the mineral deposits over there, and so you get a lot of reddish color in those mountains and the cliffs and everything, and then you get a lot of greens, vibrant greens mixed in from the trees and such, and you get just a lot of contrast, different contrasts. Very nice place. I think a lot of you who also want to save money, for instance, talking to a lot of the locals over there about which particular cities are more attractive than others in Utah. It seems like Hurricane, what is it? Hurricane, oh God, can't remember the names of them, but there's a number of cities near the national parks that are more attractive, probably, mainly because preferably you don't want a lot of snow, and the closer you get to, I think, the Mount Zion National Park, in and around Hurricane, you're gonna find that those areas are more attractive, at least according to the locals. So something me and my wife, we look at all the time when we go on vacation trips. Try to figure out which ones are more attractive, which places, whether it's in the country, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica. I'm not Puerto Rico, but Costa Rica, Peru. Haven't been to Puerto Rico yet, but looking at Costa Rica, Peru, Utah, certain places definitely offer a lot of appeal. And so anyway, we'll keep traveling and keep seeing what the differences are before we make up our minds. But definitely Utah is high on the list. Angel's Landing is a major destination in Mount Zion National Park. The Narrows, you're gonna really like the Narrows, where you get the opportunity to go through some canyons that are very, very gorgeous, and then the emerald pools. You got 3 emerald pools, a lower, a middle, and an upper. We got a chance to go up 3/4 of the way, I think, on Angel's Landing. Angel's Landing it has breathtaking views. It can be very, very, scary, mainly because once you get so high up, going up to Angel's Landing and looking down and below the canyons and stuff, if you're not careful, you could get nervous. But anyway, it's a very, very well maintained trail going up there and back, and just very popular amongst tourists and such. There have been some deaths, so you got to be careful and be prepared when you go to Angel's Landing. Other than that, go to Mount Zion National Park and check it out, and check out Utah overall. And you may want to stay. We stayed in the Best Western, so that high kudos, good kudos for them for taking care of us. So stop in Best Western and patronize that place, and you'll be. I think you'll be very, very happy you did. That's in the city of what's it called? God, I'm drawing a blank. Springdale. Stay in Springdale off season if you can. Best Western is a place to stay in Springdale, and it's right at the entrance basically of Mount Zion National Park. You literally travel probably 5 miles, or no, less than 5 miles, a couple of miles to get to the entrance of the Mount Zion National Park from Springdale. Anyway, enough of public relations for Utah and Mount Zion. So how are you guys today? Hope everything is fine. Recuperating from vacation and going to take a nap this afternoon. We got back from LAX after flying in around, I don't know, we by the time I got to bed, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30. So I really need to get some rest, but I wanted to get things organized and get things straightened out. Just one of those types of people. Anyway, my name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all of the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent, you can lay away as well. We have the largest video library, articles directory, podcast directory, blog directory, bar none, particularly for any surveillance company. I don't think it's not heard of at all to find so many quality articles and podcasts and blogs and different things in one place. That's what you get when you go to our website. I don't know about the others. Can't speak to the other. I don't think the other ones really care at all as far as educating people on anything at all, or writing anything informative or educational. On topics such as, for instance, we cover cybersecurity, we cover Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, we cover health and fitness related, economics and finance, of course, surveillance and counter-surveillance, you name it, lots of different categories, lots of things we cover. People are commenting and discussing every single day. Join the discussion, give us some feedback. If you're anything like the others, you got to be happy that you discovered our educational information on the various topics I mentioned. We do accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, and Bcash in the shopping cart. So you crypto millionaires, you may want to patronize the shopping cart, or patronize the business by using the shopping cart, dropping some of that crypto wealth on us, and because if you're like anything like me and my wife, and have gotten in early, then you're doing just fine. Like we know that's the way it is. When you get away from that typical fiat economy, you want to poke a finger in the eye of MasterCard and Visa and American Express and UBS and HSBC and Citibank and all those guys, the crooks and the thieves with the suits on, the same people that are getting fined and such every single day by the SEC, and the Department of Justice, and the CFTC, and everybody else is penalizing Wall Street and the bankers every single day. They're doing everything imaginable, you guys. The money laundering, the briberies, the market manipulation. I'm just coming across tons and tons of information. I thought I had a lot of information already. One second. Thought I had a lot of information already on how crooked the typical fiat system is. the Wall Street bankers and the Mastercards and the Visas and all those guys. But the typical fiat-based economy is just plagued with malfeasance. I mean, they're doing everything imaginable. Go to my website, look under economics and finance, and see. I'm also posting a lot of that same information under the Bitcoin category, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies category, because I want you guys to see the differences. A lot of times, Jamie Dimon, and he's the guy who runs J.P. Morgan Chase, and a lot of these big mucky-muck types, they always point the finger at Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as being only usable by, the gamblers and the money launderers and the crooks. But as you can see, we don't operate on we can't compare to what's happening in the fiat economy. Those guys, the amount of money they're pushing around is like 1,000 or 10,000 times as much. It's insane. You can't compare. It's apples and oranges. Bitcoin is not even on the radar as far as the amount of illicit activity that's going on in Bitcoin as far as compared to the fiat economy. It's insane. And then they get away with it. They don't get prosecuted or anything. That's what's really crazy. So anyway, our website is newly redesigned. It looks good and it works great on your mobile, tablet, smartphone, laptop, desktop, etc. Pay a lot of money to a designer out in Eastern Europe or Russia, I think, and did a fantastic job, basically. So we should be set for the next 5 years at least, and we'll keep putting time and money and resources into marketing, search engine optimization, and all of that. So come for the information if you want, and then stay for the products or something. Who knows? Whatever you do on a website is fine. We're trying to put emphasis on cryptocurrencies and that type of financial sovereignty that brings as compared to playing around with the chargebacks and the disputes that that's so pervasive in the fiat economy. That's what we want to get away from. So if you go to my website and in the near future and you don't see the opportunity to use MasterCard and Visa and American Express, is because it only takes a few bad apples to ruin it for everyone. And I am completely fed up with those types of customers, and I'm typically, I'm just fed up with the merchant processors and intermediaries and the credit card issuers and the discount fees and the rules and regulations. Know your customer. They tell you to give us all your information, name, address, social security number, phone number, everything, and then they leave it wide open for hackers. And then you find out later on the hackers got more information on us than we have on us. So that doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, today's article. What is today's article about? Today's article focuses on a little-known secret. A lot of retailers and different companies, they have something, I'll give you a teaser, called the CLV, and it measures your value to them. Basically, when you call and you're identified, they're going to be looking at, before they even answer the phone, they're going to be looking at how valuable or worthless you are to them. In other words, do you have a high credit score? Do you have a high net income? Are there lots of complaints about you? Are you considered a VIP customer or not? Or just on the lower rung as a troublemaker or something, this person who's too stingy and too cheap to even spend a lot of time with. So a lot of that is presented to them when you make that first phone call into those companies, and a lot of times when you're on hold for 1 minute or 45 minutes, it's because they've identified you. More than likely, as soon as you called in, and they've already gave you more priority or less priority based upon the CLV. Let's dig into this article and try to see what that means, okay? The name of the article is On Hold for 45 Minutes. It might be your secret customer score. Again, on hold for 45 minutes. It might be your secret customer score. Retailers, wireless carriers, and others crunch data to determine what shoppers are worth for the long term and how well to treat them. two people call customer service at the same time to complain about the same thing. One waits a few seconds before a representative gets on the line. The other stays on hold. Why the difference? There's a good chance it has something to do with a rating known as a customer lifetime value, or CLV. That secret number is used by all manner of companies to measure the potential for financial value, or the potential financial value of their customers. Your score can determine the prices you pay, the products and ads you see, and the perks you receive. Credit card companies use the scoring systems to decide what to offer customers who want to cancel their cards. Wireless carriers route high-value callers immediately to their most skilled agents. At some airlines, a high score increases the odds of a seat upgrade. There's no free lunch, says Sunil Gupta, a marketing professor at Harvard Business School who has researched models for calculating lifetime value. The more profitable you are, the better service you get. These days, companies are resorting to all sorts of data and scores to size up consumers and predict their behavior. Retailers use risk scores to try to limit merchandise returns and prevent e-commerce fraud. I think I put in another article, you guys. When it comes to returns, there are some companies out there. That's all they do. They measure how many times you've returned products, and are you a repeat return offender type of customer, or what does your return background look like with those stores, those retailers? Some people, they buy big ticket items and they return them, and then some people buy tons and tons of smaller items or whatever, and those get returned too often. And Amazon and Victoria's Secret and Best Buy and everybody is taking a look at your behavior. So this just extends out further, going way beyond returns and return profiles, and this gets into just your overall value to them or not. Let's see. There are scores to measure the likelihood a person will become sick, cancel a subscription, or badmouth a company. Everyone with a bank account, cell phone, or online shopping habit has at least one CLV score, more likely several. And most people have no inkling they even exist, let alone how they are used, what goes into them, or how accurate they are. Unlike credit scores, CLVs aren't available to consumers and aren't monitored by any government agency. There needs to be a public conversation around the accuracy of the scores being used, says Pam Dixon, executive director of the World Privacy Forum, a nonprofit digital privacy research group. You can essentially be accused of being cheap or a fraudster, and it may not even be true. To determine how the scores are compiled and how they are used, the Wall Street Journal interviewed data scientists who developed the models and employees of software and analytics firms that help companies put them to use. Most CLV score users contacted for this article declined to comment on how they score customers, citing competitive reasons. Many say the scores make them more comfortable offering costly services and products in the short term because they are confident they will pick up more business in the long term. Some say they aim to increase each customer's lifetime value by encouraging repeat business. In some respects, the scores are just a high-tech version of what shopkeepers have done for generations. Make judgments on a customer's value based on how they look or behave. As far back as 20 years ago, academics were publishing models to calculate the future value of customers. Now there are hundreds of analytics firms that calculate customer lifetime value, each with its own approach. Some of them put a value on shoppers based simply on what they spend, while others use hundreds of data points, adding and deducting points for demographic information such as zip codes or behavior details such as the number of returns they make or when they shop. This almost sounds like what's going on in China, where you get a social score. In other words, if you talk positive about the government, The chances of you getting a loan on a car or preferable seating at a stadium or whatever in China, that's mainly factored into your social score. And I think United States is not far behind with that model. But this is definitely one implementation of the same thing. Your behavior is being quantified and it's being turned into a number. And again, if it's airline miles, if it's the amount of time you're on hold, or if it's upgrading a seat on an airplane, all these things are determined by what that score looks like for you. Not all customers deserve a company's best efforts, says Peter Fader, a marketing professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, who helped popularize lifetime value scores. His scoring method is based on transaction history, which he says is all companies need to determine how customers will behave in the future. This year, he sold the firm he co-founded, Zodiac Incorporated, which performs such analysis, to Nike. The data that goes into a score can come from transaction records, website interactions, customer service conversations, social media profiles, and third-party brokers such as Axiom, LLC, and Alliance Data Systems Corporation's Epsilon, which sell information on such things as the number of bedrooms in a house and the type of credit card someone carries. Each piece of data is weighted based upon past patterns and perceived level of predictability. Marital status is often factored in, with some companies assuming that singles are better customers and others the opposite. Age also is a common input, potentially penalizing older people because of their higher, shorter projected lifespans. Some companies deduct points from shoppers who exhibit costly behaviors. Banks sometimes take into account the calls people make to customer service agents or the number of times they visit the branches. Online retailers track shoppers who buy things only when they are deeply discounted. People expected to cost more than they spend can have a negative score. Computer systems sometimes tag customers as high value or low value. Marketing staffers or service agents gauge interactions based upon the status. Vendors such as Zeta Global and Salesforce Incorporated can automatically offer discounts and other incentives based on the scores. Phone service. At wireless carriers such as Verizon Communications and Sprint Corporation, lifetime value can determine the marketing offers and other perks. At some carriers, high-value customers who are at risk of switching to another carrier are prioritized and get routed to a top-rated call center. Verizon and Sprint declined to provide specifics about how they assess customer value. The predominant way we route calls is based upon the reason for the calls, says a Sprint spokeswoman. She says customer lifetime value is one of many ways we guide customer interactions. Zeta Global, whose clients include wireless carriers, generates scores using data points such as the number of times a customer has dialed a call center and whether that person has browsed a competitor's website or searched certain keywords in the past few days. The firm says it has a database of more than 700 million people with an average of over 2,500 pieces of data per person. When a person's churn score, which predicts his or her chances of switching to another carrier, exceeds a certain threshold, Zeta's system flags that customer to a customer service agent. The higher the customer's lifetime value, the more likely that Zeta will recommend responding to the customer more quickly and offering free phones and other perks, says David Steinberg, Zeta's chief executive. Most of this comes down to how you're marketed to and how you're treated, he says. Apparel. Apparel retailers often compare a shopper's lifetime value with the cost of marketing to that person before deciding whether to woo him or her and how much money to spend doing so. What CLV does is allows us to see beyond the day-to-day to ensure we're focused on the quality of the new customers we're acquiring, not just quantity, says Ed Boyle, Senior Director of Performance Marketing at Bonobos, an apparel retailer acquired by Walmart. In a research paper last year, ASOS, an online retailer, said it scores shoppers on over 100 data inputs, including a customer's age and location. Since ASOS doesn't recoup delivery costs for returned items, customers can easily have negative lifetime value, the paper said. The company declined to comment on the paper. Brad Birnbaum, chief executive of customer service platform Customer Incorporated, says some of his e-commerce clients use scores, including CLV, to respond to email inquiries. If you've got an angry shopper with a high lifetime value, you might want to bump up the priority, he says. Shoppers with higher scores, however, won't necessarily get the best deals all the time, says Jerry J.O., chief executive of Retention Science, which has worked for companies such as Target Corporation, Procter & Gamble, and company. Retailers sometimes withhold discounts to high-value customers until they are at risk of losing them. Why waste a 25% offer when the person is going to buy anyway, Mr. Zhao says. Cars. At auto dealerships, a high score can mean access to loaner cars, preferential service slots, and special events, says Scott Eisenfelder, chief executive of Affinity Incorporated, which uses lifetime value to create marketing campaigns for dealerships. The scoring helps dealerships weed out costly customers. This is what you call grinders, people who visit 16 stores to get the absolute lowest price, he explains. Mr. Eisenfelder says his firm develops scores by crunching data on things such as previous car purchases, whether a household has a teenager, where else a person has shopped, and zip codes, which can be used as a proxy for income. Someone who has a Neiman Marcus credit card is going to be more valuable for a car dealership than someone with a credit card from a discount chain, he says. Air travel. At airlines, CLV scores incorporate frequent flyer information and other data. A high score can increase a person's chances of getting seat upgrades or better service, says Lax Srinivasan, co-chief operating officer of Opera Solutions, LLC, which works with airlines, retailers, banks, and other companies. The firm's scores can draw from more than 5,000 data signals per customer, Mr. Srinivasan says, translating them into recommendations for flight attendants, gate agents, and other personnel. The company tracks, for example, the number of times a person calls to complain over the prior 90 days, which can affect CLV. An airline can compare how often a shopper complains with his or her lifetime value and customer experience score, which measures inconveniences such as a number of times in the middle seat, flight delays, and lost bags. A high-value customer who had a real service disruption and never calls to complain should be compensated more quickly than someone who is complaining and costing time and money, Mr. Srinivasan says. Credit cards. To calculate lifetime value, credit card companies analyze spending behavior, payment history, and credit scores, among other things. Banks know what you buy and where and when you buy it, says Arpan Disgupta, head of financial services and telecom practices at Fractal Analytics, which helps companies analyze customer data. It's powerful data that can be used for CLV. The score can determine which customers receive credit card offers and other incentives. When customers call to cancel at a card company such as American Express, their relationship with the issuer and past spending behavior are some of the criteria used to determine what perks will be offered to retain them. So it looks like that's the end of the article, you guys, the end of the podcast. And we just want to make sure you guys understand big data is alive and well. It's being used to size you up in 900 different ways. And whether or not you get a good seat on a plane, whether or not you get upgrades, whether or not you get more service agents, more representatives attending to your every need, whether or not you get even a discount on things you buy, is based upon the CLV and these other scoring solutions that are offered by these companies. So I think as we as consumers, we're going to have to get more information and get more access to this information to determine, is there a violation of privacy? Is it even true and accurate? Just like credit scores. If someone is evaluating your credit score for a loan or something, and they have erroneous information or whatever, then that could affect whether that you get a high interest rate on a car or a house or whatever, as compared to a lower interest rate. So we want good terms. We want to be treated fairly in these deals, and we want to make sure information is accurate and transparent. So let this be a lesson to you. Look into the details of this article. Do your own research on CLV, and maybe we need to go to some local politicians or whatever and get these companies to be more open about how they're using the CLVs, how we make sure it's accurate, and when that's being applied fairly for all of us. Okay, so as we like to say at the conclusion of every single podcast, keep your eyes open and stay safe out there. And I'm going to take a nap. But you guys have a great day. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.